So good evening. Tonight is the first of a series of little talks on what was Jesus really talking about. Before we start, I'd like to sing this little chant, the Sanskrit chant, and from there I think it's a good place that we can expand the talk from. Om Jnana-timirandasya Jnananjala Salakya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So that means I was born in the dense darkness of ignorance, but my spiritual masters forced my eyes open with the torch lamp of knowledge. So this torch lamp of knowledge, what is this torch lamp of knowledge? And this metaphor, allegory of light that the different scriptures use, is this purely metaphorical, or is there something like the light on your path, like a philosophical roadmap for your life is like light on the direction of your life? Or is there actually a light involved there? So to know that, we have to go into a little bit of the mechanics of the inner bodies. In the biblical scripture, it's called there's two bodies besides this physical one that we see. There's a celestial body, and then there's the Lord from heaven, the second man. In the Sanskrit, in the Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition, there is a subtle body, and then there's the Siddhadeha body. And in the Buddhist tradition, there's the Sambhogakaya body and the Dharmakaya body. But then there's also the Svabhavakaya body. So, when we're trying to understand light, whether it's purely metaphor or has some allegorical, metaphors, allegories, supposed to have as many common features between what it's trying to explain. So when we think of light, such as a light bulb or a fire or a sun or a firefly or any kind of light, we can't separate that from the idea that there's an expanding energy called heat around it. So, for instance, if we take electricity and run it through a wire, and it goes to a filament, and then this energy that's running through the filament begins to expand at a certain rate, and it goes through these different levels of radiation that it expands. But then at a certain point, there's visible light begins to manifest. The reason why the visible light begins to manifest in terms of the spiritual science is because it begins to turn, it actually is turn a little vortex, but it creates a hole, so to speak, in the cosmic partition between this world and the world that is full of light, that every scripture says is God's realm, that God is a light, that God is this blinding light. So this agitation that happens when this energy begins to expand out, either from wood or from a sun or firefly or whatever, it begins to manifest light. So, internally, we also have this in our subtle body, or our celestial body in the biblical terms. We also have the ability to act like a light bulb. We have a certain amount of energy that runs up our spine, and we can focus that in our concentration, which is like the filament. And through doing various spiritual disciplines to exercise and to increase this subtle body's capacity to be able to focus energy, we will be able to focus our attention to the point just like the filament, and it will begin to radiate light, actual light. This light is the same light that's visible in our dreams. The more we can see this light, the more happy we become, the more peaceful, the more creative, the more of the facets of the right brain, the intuitive, the feminine, the artistic, the more aspects of that particular brain begin to manifest, the more we begin to see this light. So, when we're talking about blessings then, back to the spiritual master that says, I was born in the dense darkness of ignorance, but the spiritual master has forced my eyes open with the torch lamp of knowledge. When a person reaches a certain capacity in their ability to be able to focus his attention, then they're able to focus it into another person as what's called in that prayer, the torch lamp of knowledge. This is the meaning of what a blessing is. A blessing is a focused inspiration, focused rush or infusion of inspiration that allows a person to go to a deeper level of awareness within their own consciousness. How we get to do that is through sacrament. There are different types of sacrament. Usually we think of sacrament as a wafer and wine in the Eucharist of the Catholic Church. But actually anything can be a sacrament, because what happens when you offer a sacrament is that because God has given His Word, He has ordained, He has authorized this process, that when you make this offering, again, this process of thinning the partition between you and God is diminished a little bit each time you make an offering that is a sacrament. Now, when I say anything can be a sacrament, you can make that offering with your thoughts, you can make that offering with your actions, your deeds. Everything that you do, you can do as an offering, as a focus to try to get to a deeper level of that understanding. Your whole daily life, you can set it off in the morning in that direction. You can remind yourself that that's the reason why you're alive, to get deeper and deeper. And then, of course, you'll get the money from your job and you'll get everything else thrown in. But if you focus for this highest principle, then you will achieve the highest principle also. So, there are even worldwide uses of certain psychoactive drugs that people use as sacrament, because the psychoactive drug has an ability to create an infusion of energy in a person's mind that they again can in turn focus and experience this thinning between this world and the world of God. And so that's why the Hopi, or not the Hopi, excuse me, but there's a southwestern Indian tribe that is allowed to use peyote, and there's also, as recently as 2008, the Brazilian folks who were allowed through the Religious Reformation Act to bring root that is used in their religion in Brazil that creates a psychedelic experience similar to LSD, I'm told. And they're allowed now to use that sacrament because it's been existing in their religion and because it brings them experiences of God. And this is why the Indians are allowed to take peyote, because and within their religious context, it brings them closer to God. So a sacrament is anything that brings you closer to God, in a nutshell. So, kind of a short little talk tonight, but I think it's to the point, and it kind of puts some teeth on, like I said on the flyer, what we're trying to do is give a comparative analysis, use scientific words, psychological words, and ancient religious terminology, and trying to make a communion between those three so that we can understand better what true religion means, what true spiritual science means in the modern context, because I don't blame anybody for not wanting to go to the churches that most of the Christian churches that we see these days that don't even offer a meaningful, deep understanding of their own doctrine. But thank you very much this evening, and it's been a great pleasure. And,